Worth every penny. Worth every single penny that I put down for this pay-per-view tonight. Fabulous job again, AEW. Wow, what a show. It's good to be a wrestling fan on this lovely Saturday night. Good to see everybody in here. Holy shit, super chats rolling in right off the bat. And yeah, we're here to talk about AEW Revolution, which just wrapped up about 5 minutes ago. Brand new AEW World Champion Jon Moxley. I was really back and forth on my prediction. I predicted him in my predictions the other day after Super Showdown, predicted him to win, but then I started like getting in my own head over the weekend and actually kind of changed my mind. I was expecting maybe Jericho to retain, but Moxley winning the way he did, which we'll talk about it all in detail, was an excellent moment. It's going to be one of AEW's, biggest moments if they survive and they last, years to come. We're going to look back on this night as a pretty fun one because it was jam-packed with a lot of great shit. Good matches, good stories, maybe one of the best tag team matches we've ever seen, and then a pretty memorable main event with Moxley taking the title here. And I loved everything about it. A couple of weak points. The show was not perfect, and we'll get into some of the things that didn't please me too much. But for the most part, I'm giving this show B+, A-. It's the worst grade I can even think of to give it. But let me make sure I can be heard. Good matches. Yeah, all right, we'll look good. Let's see what else I can do here before I knock out a couple of super chats right off the bat, and then we'll start going. I'm going to move my head down so it's not chopped off. There we go. Yeah, right off the bat, Austin Kinkle, good to see you, man. I cleansed my brain of Super Saudi Showdown, aka Pooper Slow Brown, with this pay-per-view. Such a breath of fresh air. Yeah, I agree, my man. I appreciate it. Yeah, tonight was just fun from top to bottom. It was an entertaining show. They do a really good job of balancing kind of everything. For the most part, and I just had an entertaining night of wrestling. That's all I really want. That's all I really expect out of any of these companies. Just give me fun, and they did. And this pay-per-view cost, I don't know what you guys paid for it if you did it on your cable box or pay-per-view. I used BR Live, $49.99. Well worth it to me. I certainly didn't feel like I wasted my money. Devlin, husband, good to see you, man. What's going on? I think you were talking to me a little bit on Twitter tonight as well. AEW's world champions are former WWE guys. This is basically TNA 2.0, time to sell the company, 1 out of 10 show, awful. I got to agree, man. I mean, AEW, they're just a t-shirt company. They have no real talent there because everybody is just children and just like cosplay wrestlers that like to pretend to wrestle, and they don't really know what they were doing. That was proven tonight in the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page match. It was like watching, 3-4-year-olds blindfolded wrestle around for a donut. It was like the worst looking shit ever, and these people call that wrestling. My God, you got Chris Jericho, probably one of the lamest heels of all time. Finally dropping his belt that he's been hanging on to and holding everybody down. This company's a mess, man. And then their little cult-like fans are just ruining everything and, just praising them no matter what. Even when they have a shitty night of wrestling tonight, the fans are going to say it was great, like always. Anyway, me and him are in on that joke. Maybe not y'all. Tag team too many kickouts. You know what? We are way beyond that criticism. We are in the era now where you can't even complain about too many kickouts because every match has too many kickouts. I mean, what really classifies as too many these days? Because we've seen some excellent matches that have had a lot of crazy shit people were kicking out of. I think I'm pretty much at this point numb to it, and I've accepted that evolution of that part of the business that these roller coaster ride matches, it's just they're not structured the same way as they were in the 70s, 80s. Totally different style now. Lots of different styles around, and there's much more variety out there, and you're going to have these type of matches that are so crazy, where, it goes 4 or 5 sometimes kickouts further than you had expected it to go, and you already expected it to have a lot of kickouts. So I understand what you're saying, super fluffy toaster, but we're in the era now where it's just standard business, you know what I mean? But oh man, that tag match was good. Holy crap, edge of my seat the entire time. A lot of fun. So I hope you guys were able to see the show tonight, because it was amazing. And if you have been thinking about, do I want to buy an AEW pay-per-view? Not sure if I'm quite into them yet. Maybe I'll wait and see how they go, and if a pay-per-view piques my interest enough, I'll pick it up. But it's worth starting to check them out, because one thing I'm noticing about the AEW pay-per-views is they're similar in a lot of ways to NXT takeovers, where you can pretty much go into it knowing that you're going to get solid stuff. Now I don't think it's going to be really hard to top takeovers, so I'm not saying AEW is there or anything, but I've gone into all of their special events expecting good wrestling and getting good wrestling. And even when they have kind of maybe a lackluster show or one that wasn't as good as the one before, it's still pretty damn good. It's like sex and pizza, right? So far, I'm very impressed with AEW and what they've been able to do in their short time that they've been around. You've got fans already, kind of giving up on them or saying, oh, I don't know if they're going to make it. I'm like, Jesus, we're talking about 20 weeks here. You got to give them time to go and get going and learn and grow and shit like that. A lot of people are complaining that their roster is too small. Well, you don't want to load them up. You don't want to front load the whole roster with 100 guys right up front because nobody knows who anybody is. It takes time to kind of get these guys over. And I think AEW stopped the hiring process kind of when they had their core group there. Spend some time getting those guys over. They need to get some TV time. Fans need to get to know who they are. And then you can start adding pieces and grow slowly. You don't start a wrestling company with 175 wrestlers like the WWE has. That's got to be kind of a slow build type of thing. And they will notice, if their roster is thinning and, oh shit, we got another cable TV show coming up now. We need more talent to fill this time slot. They'll go out and get it. But for right now, I think it was fine what they did the first several months of their existence, taking care of the talent that they currently have there. That way you're not starting out with a whole bunch of guys getting lost in the shuffle right from the word go. I think doing it the way they're doing it is a smart way to do it, to be honest with you. Start small and then build on that. It's like building a sandcastle. You don't just pile everything on there at once. You start with your foundation and then you build upwards, It's just how you should fucking do it. So I think sometimes the criticisms of this company are a little bit flimsy because when I watch what they put on tonight, I saw very few problems with it. Women's division still needs help, but like I said in the last couple of episodes, it'll get better. Again, that's not an overnight type of thing to fix. It takes time. So I'm all on board with AEW. So far, they impressed the hell out of me, not only on their TNT show, giving us entertaining shows mostly every Wednesday night, but they've been coming through on their pay-per-views. They have not disappointed us, and the crowd and the audience has played a big role. Tonight in Chicago's always a hot crowd, no matter who's in town, but they were really into the action tonight, and they helped the pay-per-view. So AEW is going to the right cities where they know they got tons of fans there. They're going to show up. They're going to scream. They're going to participate. And that's what wrestling's all about. And we need it more than ever right now, based on what we saw this past week in Saudi Arabia and that whole fucking debacle. And once we're done talking about Revolution, by the way, we're going to spend some time talking a little bit about last night's SmackDown and the fallout from Super Showdown and what we now have for WrestleMania. We have all the big matches pretty much announced, and that was all figured out last night. So we'll get into that too. Stay tuned. But so far, just bravo to AEW. They came through tonight. They gave they're making people pay money for a pay-per-view, and they're delivering, and they're providing a really good service. So to me, it was all worth it in the end, and props to the men and women who made it all possible. Before we get into the results, the match-by-match results, let me knock out another super chat or two. How easy. Good to see you. Just got home half hour ago. Glad I'm here. That's right. You said you might not be able to be here tonight. I think you said in the last stream. Well, I'm glad you're here too. We'll have some fun and go through these results. And I had to crack open a beer just to toast the awesome work tonight. I really enjoyed it. Definitely not the worst Saturday night I've ever had. I've got some ribs in my slow cooker that have been going about 8 hours now. I plan to cook them for 8 hours, and we're going on 7.5. So it smells delicious in here. I got to watch some great wrestling. I got a nice cold one. Life is good. And I'm hanging out with all you guys. Did Cody's entrance sound bad? I don't think it did. I mean, the live performances always sound different. That's another thing I liked about tonight's Revolution, is we had more than one special entrance. It had a WrestleMania vibe. So props to AEW for, going all out. They spare no expense, production-wise. There was a lot of thought that went into this stuff, and I like it. Cody had a really good entrance, and so did Jericho. But, remember when Triple H would come out, Motorhead would play him to the ring. It doesn't sound as good, or maybe not as good. It doesn't sound the same, I should say, live as it does, playing over the speakers. Same thing at WrestleMania 14. I remember not liking Shawn Michaels' entrance with the live performance of DX. I kind of liked the song. So sometimes it definitely sounds different, but I liked Cody's entrance. That was great. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Cody, whatever the band's name is that sings his theme song, they performed live and played him to the ring tonight, which I thought came off really well. And Jericho's entrance was cool too. He had kind of a choir thing going on. So yeah, all in all, I mean, it wasn't just like a copy and paste wrestling show, with just a bland set and a bland stage and, a ring and a bunch of matches and shit. There was a lot of thought that went into a lot of this stuff, and so many good stories were told and have been told, and a lot of the build has been great. And I think creatively they're doing a lot better than WWE in terms of just really having a grip on where they want to go storyline wise, where the WWE doesn't know which fucking way is up. They've got feuds starting before they're supposed to, you know, with Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch kicking off their rivalry, but Shayna still technically has to win this Elimination Chamber match coming up in a week, that she will, to get this opportunity. I'm like, oh, you guys are getting ahead and behind yourself at the same fucking time. It's so annoying. And AEW doesn't seem to have that problem. Just creatively, I trust them more to think about things in more than one way, you know, because they probably don't have a Vince McMahon there, and not having a Vince can be a good and a bad thing. I've said this right from the start. I think in the long run, not having one, and I know there is a boss, you know, Tony Khan and everything, but not having that one definitive, I am the last, you know, say in everything, not having that one person can hurt you a little bit, because then, you know, it can cause problems and shit, you know, internally. I think AEW is too young to have that really happen right now, but maybe in the future it does, and they might want to think about bringing on somebody like an executive producer or something just to take the reins and be the person. So we'll see in the long run, but their storylines and the way, you know, they build everything up to these matches, I think are done much better in general than WWE. Maybe not so much NXT, you know, NXT is a lot better, but the WWE for sure. You know, when you look at a Raw or SmackDown, every time you watch one, you're like, yep, that's the way those shoes usually go. They're all mostly the same, and you don't get that feeling from All Elite Wrestling. So anyway, I will stop sucking their dicks. Let's get into these results after I knock out a $2 super chat from Stone Cold 10X. Orange Cassidy is fun. We will get into his match with Pac, and exactly what I said on my Super Showdown. I was all hot and bothered on Thursday after that match, because not only was the Goldberg Fiend match incredibly frustrating to watch and deal with, when I started talking about my AEW predictions, I was thinking about all the fucking idiots that shit on Orange Cassidy, and I'm like, this dude's 100 times more athletic than anybody that thinks he shouldn't be in the ring. And just wait and see what happens when he cares. And I went on this big, long rant, and he totally came through for me and proved me right tonight. And the match with Pac was good and entertaining and fun, and an excellent balance of silliness and brutality. You know, they never crossed over the line. Yeah, the hands were in the pockets a little bit. We did some little shin kicks, and Pac played along for a little while. But at the same time, he was pretty fucking brutal, and it was a hard-hitting match, and those two guys took no less bumps than anybody else in any other match. You know, Cassidy might roll around like a slop, but he takes some punishment, and he delivers it. And once the hands were out of the pockets, it was on, and he showed what he can really do in there. So I'm glad that he made me look good in this match tonight. Let's start at the top, or actually, let's start at the bottom. Get into, I guess, what was the buy-in or the preview or the pre-show match, I should say. My notes are not in the right spot. Let me adjust my screen real quick just so I can make sure I can read everything. I don't have my normal setup here that I do for the Winged Eagle, which also reminds me of something else. There we go. Notes are in the position that they need to be in. We are ready to rock. Just need to take care of one more piece of business real quick, and I want to thank everybody that supports me on Patreon. You guys are the best. Every Saturday when I do the Winged Eagle podcast, I always shout you guys out. So as usual, Barry MK400, Blake Moran, Brandon Collier, who just sent me a big one the other day. He's taking advantage of the Bret Hart tier. I am going to start getting back into doing the custom videos. There is a tier on Patreon right now, $100 or more pledge or donation. I'll do a video on a topic of yours, and Collier, Brandon had a pretty good one, and I'm looking forward to doing that right after WrestleMania. And I think I owe you a message as well, buddy. But thank you for your very generous Patreon pledge there. Claudio Clavadetcher, Domanion Elwell Sr., Daniel Rodriguez, Devlin Husband, who's with us in the chat right now, Jordan Carr, John Riffle, John Rediford, Josiah Blevins, Keith Salyers, Michael Cuomo, Nathan Walker, Mr. Steve, Ryan Y, Reese Jones, Steve, and the Double Z TV. You guys are awesome. Thanks for everything as usual. All right, now let's start talking about these matches. Now, the show opened up with the Dark Order taking on SCU. Now, it was funny because I'm not used to, I've ordered all of the AEW pay-per-views and I've done them all on BR Live, but I'm not really used to like how it's set up. So the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, does the show start at 4 o'clock my time or 5 o'clock my time on the Pacific Coast? And I'm like, I think it's 4. And then I started watching it and I saw the matches. I thought I was watching the pay-per-view, but apparently this was just the pre-show. So it was kind of funny. I didn't even realize until they started bringing JR and Excalibur and shit out there. I'm like, oh, here's the main card. So anyway, on the kickoff show, or the buy-in show. You had SCU taking on the Dark Order. Dark Order won kind of convincingly too, which was interesting. We knew it really wasn't time to get any sort of Exalted One reveal yet. Matt Hardy's contract apparently is up tomorrow unless he has taken the offer to do the thing in NXT, which we've heard about, or maybe some last-minute offer from the WWE that's just too good to pass up or too good to refuse. I did see that Jeff Hardy is going to be on WWE Backstage in just a couple of days. So if Matt is gone, I'm curious if that's something that's going to be brought up with Jeff, and I'm sure they're going to be talking about his return as well. And then when his contract, he's got that time added because of his injury. When his runs up, is he going to stick around? Or do we see him hop over to AEW as well? So that should be interesting. But regardless of who the Exalted One is or whatever's going on, it wasn't time to reveal any of that yet. But what I loved in this match was at the end, after the Dark Order won, they kind of swarmed the ring and started continuing to beat down Scorpio Sky and Kazarian, and that's when Daniels shows up, or they had somebody, I guess the lights go out or some shit, comes back up, and somebody's coming out in a cloak, like the same thing that Vince McMahon wore when he was revealed to be the higher power. And it was one of those things, and he takes it off to reveal that it's Daniels. He gets in the ring and helps SCU run off the Dark Order, but I thought that was really cool because Daniels was one of the guys that was rumored to be the higher power all the way back 21 years ago in 1999. So that was a really kind of nod to that back then. Because it would have been weird if Daniels, he wasn't really, he wasn't a star. That's what he says now. He wouldn't have been a good higher power because nobody really knew who he was back then. Later on in his career, as the Fallen Angel, he probably would have made a pretty good one. But anyway, coming out in the higher power cloak, awesome stuff. So now we're on to the main card. Now, the show opened up with Jake Hager having his first match in AEW, taking on Dustin Rhodes. And I was kind of looking forward to this match just to see, we haven't seen Jack Swagger in the ring in a while. I've watched, some of his MMA fights and stuff, and I was curious, like, how he was going to look, what his ring gear was going to look like, if his style was going to change at all from what it was, more of, he did a lot of things, but he did do some athletic moves, and I felt like he was more of a wrestler than an MMA fighter. So now in the ring in pro wrestling, is he going to be more a little bit like Brock? And I feel like he was. He didn't really lose much of a step in the ring. He looked really good, and Dustin, can't say enough good things about him. The fucker is 50, and he's in there bouncing around, like he's 25 years old. I'll tell you what, this week in wrestling, of all the wrestlers in their 50s who had wrestling matches, Dustin Rhodes is the best by far, by miles, over someone like Goldberg. He's always very impressive. But it was a weird kind of beginning because I guess they had Jake Hager's wife out there. I didn't even know it was his wife at the time. He just was making his entrance, and there's a blonde lady at ringside, and he goes up and just starts making out with her. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's just some woman. Maybe that's his gimmick. I'm just so awesome. I just fucking kiss chicks and that shit. But it turns out that was his wife. He is wearing kind of like MMA style shorts, just a little bit longer, black and gold. He's got some wristbands and stuff in the boots, and I kind of like the way he looked. Dustin was rocking a I'm here to fight Jericho's bitch t-shirt, which was fabulous. And the two get going, they start brawling, and the match is on, and it takes them a while to kind of get cooking, but there's one spot on the outside that was really weird. They spill out to the outside, and Jake Hager's wife is at ringside there, and Dustin walks up to her, and she goes to slap Dustin, and he blocks it, and then he grabs her and just forces a kiss on her, which was interesting because that's a spot that we've seen for years in wrestling. It goes back, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's been done a bunch of times. One of the most notable times something like that was done was at WrestleMania 8 in the match with Macho Man and Ric Flair at the end of the match when Rick forces a kiss on Elizabeth, and then she goes batshit, slaps the shit out of him, and basically beats him up, and Randy loses his mind. So it's interesting that Dustin is doing this as a babyface, and in today's day and age, in our crazy ass fucking cancel culture society, to sexually assault someone, I'm not sure if that's quite a good idea, but nobody seemed to mind, which I like. I'm glad. I don't want anybody to have to make a stink about that, but I did find it interesting that that's something that they would even have the balls to do today, the way they know everybody, how nuts everybody can be. So anyway, he does that to her, and in the end, after the match continues into the ring, Jake Hager is just too much. Now, I predicted him to win, and I predicted him to win pretty definitively, and he kind of did here. He basically just puts Rhodes to sleep. It's some sort of like a standing triangle choke or something. Jim Ross said he won both of his Bellator fights with that. So he kind of puts down Dustin. It's like a referee stoppage. So he basically just puts him to sleep and wins. So really solid outing by him. Dustin did a good job putting him over. Weird to see the wife getting involved, and it did have some entertaining aspects to it. But as far as Dustin, forcing himself on another man's wife, it's interesting, what qualifies and classifies as a babyface and a heel these days. You got Velveteen Dream in NXT wearing Roderick Strong's wife on his tights, and then you've got Jericho, who the fans just sing his theme song. Somehow he's a heel. And now you've got Dustin Rhodes as a babyface forcing himself on another man's wife. So whatever. It's an interesting time that we live in. But good opening match there, solid. And I'm happy Jake Hager has gotten off to a really solid start in AEW. And he looked good. Right after that, we had a promo. Now, this is interesting. I didn't catch the date. I'm going to need your help on this. There was a promo for like a War Games match in AEW. It's titled something. It's called Blood and Guts. And I think it's set for a Wednesday in New Jersey sometime like really soon. It was like 2 rings, 1 cage, and all that shit. So I'm curious. I don't remember. I know Cody once did trademark a bunch of shit. I don't know who owns the trademarks to War Games, if WWE does or he does, or if they can't even call it War Games, because they didn't say War Games in the promo. They called it Blood and Guts, but it's going to be a double ring, double cage type of thing. And I think Cody has every right in the world to fucking use that in his promotion, regardless of who owns the rights to the match. So I'm sure AEW has done their homework and everything. They know what they can and can't do. I'm looking forward to that. Probably going to be the Inner Circle against somebody. A bunch of guys. Inner Circle against somebody is probably what the War Games match is going to be, but that's going to be fun. March 25th, thank you guys, and that's a Wednesday, correct? So again, I've said this and I've made this compliment about AEW before, that I really like that they're treating Wednesday nights like not just total builds between pay-per-views. That's what WWE does. Every single Raw and SmackDown is just a build to the next show, but AEW with longer gaps, they can sometimes build to future Wednesdays, and have big matches there, and they can be, just as important as some of the pay-per-views sometimes. That's the way WWE was back in the day. When there's only like 5 pay-per-views a year, you would see title changes, big title changes sometimes on the TV shows every now and then. So they're not only able to do that, but they're able to advertise matches weeks ahead of time. Sometimes a couple of weeks ahead of time, like they did with the Iron Man match and a couple of women's matches and things like that. They're able to really promote upcoming Dynamite shows, and that's great. You never see that shit on Raw and SmackDown, ever. Maybe every now and then. They'll announce some upcoming match, but most of the time they change their minds 5 minutes after they make the announcement anyway. So with AEW, they got a much better grip on this, and now they've got basically a full month to promote this new Wednesday night, or this new event on Wednesday night, and it's going to be great. Can't wait to see that shit. When you see it in NXT, the War Games matches in NXT, I would never shit on them. They're phenomenal. But when I think of War Games, I think of the way it was back in the 80s. You put men that literally wanted to kill each other in the cage and just have them murder each other just until somebody dies. Just go in there and just lots of blood, lots of guts. Where in NXT, it's a much cleaner type of match now. Yeah, you have a little bit of bad blood, but when you look at what they did with the women, they were just slapping women together. Oh, there you go. You're in the War Games match. They do the same shit in the chamber. War Games match should be used to settle a deeply personal issue that is just loaded with hatred. Nothing but hatred. There you go. Get in the ring. Do whatever the fuck you want to each other. Whoever doesn't die wins. And I like that version of War Games a lot better than kind of what it's turned into. While it's entertaining as shit, in NXT, a lot of it's just a lot of spots, just a lot of, flips and table spots and crazy shit. And you're entertained by it, and you're on the edge of your seat, and you're in awe of the amazing ring work, but there's no story that really matches the level of brutality that the match is. And I think AEW is going to do a better job of that, than WWE will. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, next matchup, we had Darby Allin taking on Sammy Guevara. I've been singing the praises of these two guys for a while. I've been looking forward to this one because I like the rivalry. Just they match up on paper is like the perfect rivalry. I mentioned the comparison to Edge and John Cena back in the day. It was like rock and roll and rap, and this is a guy, Sammy Guevara, who's an idiot, gum-chewing teenager, very obsessed with Snapchats and shit like that, and he's very self-absorbed, buried in his phone all the time, stupid haircut, stupid clothes, and he's going up against a guy that's kind of a rebel, maybe a recluse, has a little bit different. He's not a conformist. There's guys like Sammy Guevara are a dime a dozen, and not so much with Darby Allin. So I think that's just a kind of a natural rivalry. The gum-chewing, bubblegum Backstreet Boy against the skateboarding, badass that probably gets a lot more, never mind, than Sammy Guevara. But anyway, awesome match. Liked it right from the get-go. They basically started brawling right. Oh, actually, you know what? I gotta just mention the intro. They did kind of like and they might be doing this. I don't think they've done it on TV yet. So they kind of cut to the big screen, and it's Darby Allin in a ring. First, you see a skateboard roll right underneath the camera with Sammy's name spray painted on it. And then there's like an AEW ring in an empty arena, and Darby goes for like a springboard moonsault, and he lands perfectly on the skateboard, and then lights go out as music hits, and he skateboards down to the ramp. Then they start brawling, and they have this huge brawl that winds up leading to Sammy Guevara nailing his whatever the fuck splash, whatever number 9 somersaults is. He hits that on Darby Allin through a table from the top rope onto the floor before the bell rings. So all of that took place. And Darby really started it, because as soon as he hit the ring, he just toe-paid right through the corner and took out Sammy, and the brawl was on from there. So they went through about, 4 or 5 minutes before they got in the ring, and the bell rang. And then the match was pretty good too. And Darby Allin is super over. The crowd is into him. I predicted him to win here, and he wound up, he kind of, what did he counter? There was like, oh, that's right. Somebody, I don't know who did it, but somebody removed the turnbuckle pad. So Sammy eats a face full of the turnbuckle into a stunner, and then he's out, and Darby just goes right to the top and nails a pretty sick coffin drop on Sammy Guevara for the win there. So it was a great way to welcome back Darby Allin. Big win for him. I liked the little mini program they had there. Don't know if they'll do another match or not. They might not have to. And this issue was done, but it was super fun, and I enjoyed it, and both guys will move on to doing their thing now. So great job there. Next up is what could arguably be, and this is where I want a little bit of your input as well, arguably be one of the best tag team matches we've ever seen. Now, you're going to have the debate. You're probably going to see it all online. You're probably going to have it here too. There is going to be the debate. There always is when you have a match like this, like the Ricochet and Will Ospreay match. What classifies wrestling? Was it too much? Was it overbooked? Were there too many kickouts? Were there too many high spots? Like I said earlier, to whoever asked it in the chat, I just think that that's kind of the age that we're in now, and I don't really think there's such a thing anymore as too many kickouts, because the matches that we're seeing these days in modern times are ridiculous. And it's really hard to classify, what the best tag team match ever is, but in recent years, we've seen some great ones, man, in WWE too. You got great teams over there, like the Usos, like the New Day. You got great teams in NXT, like the Revival used to be. Like Undisputed Era is now, and a ton of great teams. The talent is there. It's just the tag team division isn't treated the same as it was. Doesn't feel the same to me. Back when I was a kid, tag team wrestling felt like it really meant something. Like it was important, to me, with the Rock and Roll and the Midnight Express and the Hart Foundation and the Bulldogs and the Bees and Demolition and all these teams and the Road Warriors. It just had a completely different feel to it. Nowadays, there's plenty of talent. Talent's really not the problem, and the matches aren't the problem. It's just tag team wrestling is just kind of treated a little bit differently. But in modern times, we've seen a lot of great tag team matches. A lot of great ones, and most of them have come in WWE or NXT. So it's really hard for me, maybe you guys can do a better job. It's really hard for me to rank a match like this, but it was one of the most fun tag team matches I can ever see I've ever remember seeing, because there was 4 different stories being told throughout the course of the match. A lot of it hanging on Hangman Page because of his behavior and how weird he's acting. And this is a very strange situation with friends, with 4 buddies having to do battle, but one guy's kind of on the outs, not really getting along with anybody right now. There's a ton of tension. You feel like it could boil over, and the Elite could be on their last legs here. And then during the match, they took us on all these different twists and turns. So, this match was super fun. We'll talk about it here. What'd you guys think? Yeah, they're definitely going. And again, with AEW, they're going to do another championship, I'm sure. But I'm not really necessarily thinking it needs to happen right this very second. Hopefully soon. But I'm glad that they didn't bring that belt in when they started either, because, do it slowly. Establish some guys first and establish your championships, and then start adding, to the the puzzle a little bit, and adding a secondary championship like a cruiserweight lights out title could be a good one. I'm kind of partial to the TV title. I would love to see them bring back the television championship. It's just they got a lot of WCW fingerprints there. You know, Cody, you know, with his dad and everything he did. You got Arn Anderson there. Gary Michael Capetta did the, was the moderator for the weigh-in on Wednesday night between Moxley and Jericho. They're on TNT. There's lots of things about it that kind of give you that old WCW feel. And if they brought back the TV title, I would love it. It's right over my shoulder here. I always use the wrong hand whenever I point over my shoulder. But anyway, let's talk about the match. Now, Adam Page basically right from the beginning was being a complete pain in the ass. He's just really uncooperative, and they're like, come on, man. And he just will not cooperate. Doesn't want to fucking talk to him, wants to be away from him. He's just being annoying. And of course, he's drinking all the time and just, being a shithead. So as the match starts, he kind of aggressively tags Kenny Omega at one point, and Kenny's like, what the fuck? And then he blind tags him another time. So he's basically trying to call the shots. I'm going to tell you when I want you to wrestle, and now it's my turn and shit like that. So he's already getting under everybody's skin, the fans and Kenny Omega, and all of that. Page eventually gets, I forget which buck. I think it might have been Matt. He's got him on the outside of the ring. Looks like he's going to power bomb him through like the timekeeper's table. And that's when Omega comes out and kind of stops him. And Omega was an interesting situation here where I'm like, he doesn't want to be too much of a sap, where he's like, come on, don't hurt my friend, and he doesn't want to like reluctantly strike the Bucks or anything like that, but he wasn't going to let Page put him through the table. So he moves Page out of the way and immediately takes the Buck and throws him in the ring and continues the assault. So Kenny he's totally into, going all out here and laying his shots in on his friends, but at the same time, he doesn't want to do anything, too heelish against him. So it's a really, really fun match, even in the first half. I mean, I divided up into like 3 different parts, it seems like, but it was really good right from the beginning. I mean, lots of crazy spots, lots of high spots, lots of great tandem offense. They were botching very little here. Everything was smooth and crisp. Hangman hits a blockbuster suplex and kicks, or who kicked out of that? One of the Bucks kicked out. I think that was the first of what turned out to be, 13 kickouts that I expected not to see. There was so many of them. There was a lot of that stuff at first. V triggers out the ass. A lot of guys were making the saves prior to the kickouts, but they were, really close. The first of the worst probably bumps I saw, just a super gnar poison rana onto Omega. He lands right on the top of his head. At the same time, I think Matt's got Adam Page out on the ramp, and he hits him with like 2 or 3 Northern Light suplexes right on the ramp. That was crazy. We had a spike pile driver, I think, after that to Adam Page on the ramp, which essentially put him out of action. And the crowd by this point is going nuts. I think that one V trigger where Matt on Nick Jackson, where Matt Jackson made the save, that might have been the first of the loud crowd pops from, they're like, holy shit. That's when you knew people were going to start standing up, grabbing the tops of their heads, and not sitting down. It was all great shit from there. God, what else do I have in my notes? I've got like 3 paragraphs of notes on this match. The best pop of all of it, and one of my favorite pops of all time, was the golden trigger onto Omega, and he kicked out at 1. And there was a great cut shot to one of the fans who was almost doing like an Undertaker lost the streak type of face. He was just like, holy shit, and that was great. And Omega is just fired up. And he's fired up at this point. Page, by this point, he recovers as well from the spike pile driver on the ramp and reappears to interrupt the Meltzer driver and puts Nick Jackson through a table. And then we get a buckshot V-trigger combo and a kick out. That, to me, was the first of the definitive finishes that I thought it was. That was a great sequence there. All that stuff happened. Page recovers, gets back in there. They hit their finish. And Jesus, still Matt kicks out. And that was a lot for him to kick out of. And so maybe if you see the arguments online or the debates online, oh, there was too many kickouts, that might have been where it started, because that was a little much for him to be able to survive that. But he did. And the match, it's not like it went on for like another minute. It went on for like another 5, where they were just doing more crazy shit. Adam Page ends up hitting a one-winged angel, on Matt. But then Nick makes the save. So you thought that was going to be the finish. After all of those kickouts, I think it's finally, they get somebody cornered. I believe it was Matt, and they finally get him in the ring after all of that's done and hit him with the buckshot V-trigger combo for the win. And I'm selling the match short here because I'm leaving out like 5 or 6 other major near falls or saves in this match. But it was great. It was kind of rendered me speechless. I know I put something on Twitter when the match was over, but it was just like, wow, great match. I just shit my pants. That was just great stuff. So like I said, it was just a good, like, kind of ride. I like that. I kind of like getting those extra kickouts, because that one kick out by Matt, that one kind of was, whoa, that really surprised me. And they caught you 3 or 4 times where you thought that was going to be it, and somebody always was in there to make the save. But eventually when they cornered, who I believe it turned out to be Matt at the end, I could be wrong, when they finally cornered him in the ring, he's all by himself, and hit the finish. It was just too much, and they finally scored the pin. But fucking wow, man. Just wow. We're only in March. Tomorrow's March. For some of you, right now is already March. It's still February for me. But when we get to the end of the year, this match is going to be on the list. Match of the year. It's going to be on there. Might not win, but it's going to be up there. That's for sure. Yeah, the 1 count was fun. That was just like, oh man, you just did not see that coming either. You could see that all the 4 guys were like letting it all hang out. And they didn't give a shit that they were friends. They were laying their shots in and doing whatever they had to do. And at the end of the match, I should mention this too, all 4 were kind of standing there. Young Bucks, very disappointed. I kind of thought they would pick up the titles here. I struggled in my prediction on Thursday, but I do think I wound up picking the Bucks to win. But they didn't, fell short again, and that kind of tells a story on its own of, the Bucks are supposed to be the best tag team in the world. What the fuck? They've come up short in a couple of big matches now in AEW. Which is probably good. I think, like I said right from the beginning, I think the executives should hold back on winning too much at first, because you do not want to start getting the fans thinking that way. It's going to snowball and you're going to be up shit's creek. So don't do that. Take your time. Cody doesn't need to be champ right away. Neither do the Bucks. Of all of them, I think Kenny should probably be the first guy to really taste major gold. And we'll see what happens down the road. But once the Bucks kind of recover, they accept defeat. They're kind of there. They're with Kenny, and they're trying to get Hangman to come join them. I guess they're going to do some sort of show respect thing. But as usual, Adam does not want to fucking cooperate, and he starts to walk away. And I think the Bucks are like, yeah, whatever, fuck him, and they leave. And then Paige winds up coming back to rejoin Omega, holds the ropes open for him. Omega comes out. They kind of put their arms around each other and walk away. Paige picks up a beer on his way out, and it looks like they're kind of back on the same page here. So I had mentioned that they're probably going to do a heel turn at some point here. Paige is finally going to turn, and they might do it here. But I questioned myself in my predictions. I even said, I'm like, well, do the Bucks want to win the title because the team that they're facing fell apart? I think when they win the titles for the first time in AEW, it should be a big match, preferably maybe even against heels or something where they like kind of win clean with no bullshit. So if the Paige heel turn would have tied in there, it might have taken away from the Bucks win. The bigger story would have been Paige turning heel and that whole deal, not the Bucks winning the title. So in hindsight, it was probably best that they did the finish they did tonight, and they drag it out. We got to remember that this is a different company than WWE. Sometimes when I think of my predictions, I'm thinking about things in terms of how WWE would book it. This isn't WWE. This is AEW. So, I can definitely find myself being wrong sometimes, and I was happy that I was on that one because I'm in no rush to see the Bucks champ. Probably the weakest match of the night, ain't gonna lie. Nyla Rose taking on Chris Statlander. I said a couple of weeks ago, I like Chris Statlander. She's got a great look, very pretty girl. She's got the size. She's good enough in the ring. Weird gimmick. The alien thing. And I put on Twitter tonight, I wonder if she's going to ever go home or if she's going to stay here and just wait for the Andromeda Galaxy to collide with us, because it will, I guess in a couple of billion years or something. It's heading right for us. So when it gets here, her home will be here. So she can just go home then. But the alien gimmick itself is just kind of weird, especially when they mentioned that she had the flu today. And then Excalibur was cool. He was like, this Earth's atmosphere is fucked with her sinuses and made her sick, which was kind of funny. Tony Schiavone even got a kick out of that. Nyla Rose, 100% here she was going to win. There was no doubt about it. She just won that title. They're obviously pushing her and make her go on a tear now. She ain't going to drop the belt in her first title defense. So we knew that was going to happen, but the match wasn't good. It's just, they're still not there. They still just have so much work to do. And I'm not a big fan, even though I like Statlander in general. I don't like, the cartwheels and all the shit she does around the ring. Not really a huge fan of that. So Nyla Rose won pretty definitively there with the power bomb from the second rope, whatever she calls that. And that was that. So she retains, no big surprise there, and easily the weakest match on the card, and really the only weak spot, I think, in the entire show. So again, I'm not criticizing AEW. I know for a fact their women's division will get better. It just takes time. So we'll see what happens down the road. And on top of that, you know, those girls had to go up after the tag team match. So no matter who was in that spot, it was going to suck. I might have booked Nyla and Statlander after Hager and Dustin. You know, that would have put it in the second match on the card, though, and it might have made the fans a little bored. So that might have not been the best placement. But I think they could have had a better placement than what they had. And next up is the big Cody Rhodes and MJF match. Holy crap, we got to talk about this one. Let me go back in here and see if I was missing any super chats, because I think I did. By the way, if you're in here right now and you could do me a really big favor, I'd appreciate it. Smash the thumbs up. There's about 200 people or so in here right now. I would love to get the likes if you could help me out. It helps out my channel and helps drive things. So hook a brother up. Chris Ludecki, good to see you, man. I'm going to answer yours right now. I'm just making sure I didn't miss another one. Thank you for the $5, dude. I appreciate it. What do you think the best tag title match ever is for any promotion? For me, it's a two-man power trip, Jericho and Benoit from Raw 2001. That's a very good one. The best ever, though, man, I'd really have to think, because my memory goes back a long way. Way, way, way before that. So there's been some great matches. I mean, I like matches and like with any match and with anything, you can judge these in different ways. Are we talking about best in-ring match, like best in-ring work? Or are we talking about crowd reaction, or just best match overall that was surprising and fun and all that? One of my favorites of all time, I've always maintained, is Demolition versus Hart Foundation, SummerSlam 1990, 2 out of 3 falls. That was fun. Took a whole bunch of twists and turns, you know, some shady shit going on by Demolition, Legion of Doom coming out at the end, the hot summer Philly crowd going ape shit when the 3 count hit. That was good stuff. That's up there as my number one, but you know, there's been so many good ones. You got TLC matches to think about and take into consideration and all sorts of crap. So I like yours though. That's certainly one that if I'm writing down all my favorites, that's on the list for sure. Nathan Hansen, thanks for the $2, man. Appreciate it. Orange Cassidy is over. You goddamn right he is. It's always been over. It's always been my stance on him. I'm like, shut the fuck up. He's over. If he's not over, then maybe you have a point. But he is, and that's what matters. Cody Rhodes taking on MJF. That's the big matchup next. I mentioned earlier on that Cody had his theme song performed live as he went to the ring. That was very cool. I take a sip of beer before we talk about this. We need to discuss the tattoo. Let's talk about the tattoo. The tattoo. So, Cody Rhodes, I didn't see this. I wasn't aware of this on Twitter today. I just missed it. But AEW posted, or made a post on Twitter with a couple of photos of Cody just getting this crazy-ass tattoo. And I still don't even know what it was. Something America. It was a flag and shit. It might have been the outline of the United States with the flag on it. Might have been an eagle there or something too. I don't know. Kind of crazy, because he's a guy that doesn't really have a lot of tattoos. Maybe just he's got one on his chest, I think, right? He's never come across to me as like a tattoo guy. Now he's putting one on his neck, like right there, like a prison tat right on the side of his neck. Now, hey, I support anybody's decision to do whatever they want with their body. I love Cody Rhodes. He wants to get a tattoo there, fine. You know what? I'll get used to it. It's no big deal. It's a drastic change, though, and it's something I got to say. During the match, Jim Ross did not like the tattoo. Did you hear him? He said, I forgot what the fuck he said. He said, Cody's had a busy week. He's been thinking about a lot of things like this match, and he's been thinking about tattoos, too. He goes, imagine what a surprise that was for Brandy. It was a surprise to me, or something like that. Some sort of passive-aggressive shit where he definitely is not a fan of the tattoo. A lot of fans are like, oh, my God, it looks bad or whatever. But you know what? It ain't your neck. It's Cody's neck. So if Cody wants to put a tattoo on his neck, have at it, buddy. I ain't going to tell you can't do it. But it is going to take a little while to get used to. And I mentioned that, give me till like mid-April. I'll get used to it. And who knows? Maybe it's the 1st of May. Maybe Cody just wants to be a tattoo guy now. And he starts adding to it. And eventually, in time, it looks great. He's not the only guy with tattoo news this week. Did you see Jack Gallagher show back up on 205 Live? He went from like weird little orange man to being Brock Lesnar. Never understood really chest tattoos either. But doesn't look right on him either. It's going to take a while to get used to, and we probably will, and so I'm hoping that the Cody thing, that'll become part of him. He's just trying to maybe just create his own identity and change things up a bit. That's a pretty drastic decision to make, to say, oh, I'm gonna put, I only have like 2 tattoos and I'm gonna put my third one up on my neck and cover half of it. That's a bold move. I admire his boldness, but I don't know. Oh, just Nightmare Skull? Okay, I didn't even know that. Yeah, I know, like, he's American Nightmare and American Dream. I understand that. I'm not saying the flag and the country makes no sense. I was having trouble making out what it actually was. I just briefly saw the picture, so I didn't really know the design. No, I'm not saying, like, that's not the part that doesn't make sense to me. Just him getting a tattoo is kind of strange after not really having any. Yes, of course, if he's going to get a tattoo, something referencing his family and his gimmick and his name and all that, sure. American's going to be in there somewhere. That's not really the shocking part. The tattoo is the shocking part. So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, he's going to be, that's the thing. Like, Triple H was an executive with a fucking ponytail for I don't know how long until he finally cut that off. So now Cody's going to be, this business suit wearing guy. And that's another thing about Cody. He's not like Darby Allin. He likes wearing the suits. When he cuts his wrestling promos in the wintertime, he comes out with one of those long trench coats. Those long, super nice trench coats to go along with this suit and tie. Last thing in the world he seems like is a neck tattoo dude, but he did it. He did it, and like I said, I'll get used to it. Eventually, you give me a couple of months, it'll just be there, and, it'll be like second nature. So, won't even be a big deal, but it is going to be a bit to get used to. So he's accompanied to the ring by his entire entourage at first. Dustin's out there. They're all at the ramp. I think it was only Arn and Brandy who went to the ring with him, though. Arn, I thought for sure, because I've been calling for an Arn heel turn from the minute he joined up with Cody Rhodes. I think it's an odd match. I haven't liked it right from the get-go. I'm not really in to the coaching gimmick that Arn's trying to be here. He's got the fucking Denny's menu in his hand like he's a goddamn offensive coordinator, and it looks like they're really trying to overcomplicate pro wrestling. One of my biggest critiques of this pairing was a couple months back when Cody had the match with Darby Allin. And he's in the ring, and Darby goes up to the top rope to hit the coffin drop, and you see Arn get up on the apron, and he's like, put the knee up, Cody, put the knee up. And then Cody puts the knee up. And they're like, wow, it's a good thing he had Arn at ringside. They are kind of coaching him through that. And I'm like, at this point, Cody Rhodes is a veteran. Cody Rhodes' father is Dusty Rhodes. With all of his years of growing up in the business, being in the business, and being in the ring as a wrestler, I think by now he should have his opponent's finishers scouted, and he should not need Arn Anderson to tell him to put his knees up. He'll be able to put his knees up without any help. So I don't get the pairing. I don't think it matches. Arn Anderson and the Horsemen had a lot of bad blood with his dad, and I thought this whole thing was screaming for a heel turn from the word go. And when I saw Arn come out tonight, did you notice he was all buttoned up? Like he had a suit, or he had a shirt, a tie, buttoned all the way to the top, and a vest. So you couldn't see anything beyond his neck. And I was like, how cool would it be? Because they tried to throw us off during the cage match when, he smacked MJF in the head with the door. How cool would it be if he started taking his shit off to reveal Burberry underneath or reveal the scarf? Like, how great would that be? And turning on Cody Rhodes. And I thought if MJF was going to win this match, if there's any way he's going to win this match, it's going to be by Arn Anderson turning. But we didn't see that. Arn Anderson, I still think, is going to turn, and they teased it tonight because during the match, Cody accidentally hit him on the outside of the ring. Brandy went after Wardlow for some reason, and she dove into him like from the ring apron. Earlier on, she threw a cup of water in his face. So Brandy's being a dick, and she then, I think, dives off the apron onto Wardlow. He catches her, and then Cody comes out to help out, and he tries to take out Wardlow. He moves, and he nails Arn by accident, and Arn goes down. And then Cody has to, get back in the ring and fight, even though he's worried about Arn Anderson. So they teased that whole thing, and that might play into Arn's heel turn down the line. So we didn't get the heel turn tonight. After Arn took the bump, Cody's very concerned, and he gets low blowed by MJF, but he kicks out. And Cody would wind up regaining control of the match as Arn is kind of coming to, and he just starts beating the shit out of MJF. At one point, taking off his weight belt and whipping him. So that's pretty cool, getting him back for the lashes a couple of weeks ago. And in a really cool spot, the referee at first is like going to take the weight belt away, but then he kind of like turns away. He turns away and lets Cody have one more shot with it, which I thought was cool. And then he throws the weight belt into the crowd. So that was good stuff. The finish was great too. I really liked the finish, and the finish caught me off guard because I wasn't necessarily thinking MJF didn't have a chance to win. I just thought it would take a lot more cheating than what it actually did. And don't get me wrong, he cheated his balls off here, but I'm surprised it happened the way it did. So the finish sees MJF, by the way, he's busted open. He's cowering to Cody. He's grabbed a hold of his foot, and he's like, please, and he's crying, and he's like, please don't hurt me anymore. But then he's defiant. Instead of being a chicken shit little bitch, he spits right in Cody's face. Cody snaps, hits him with not one, but two crossroads. But right before he had done that, MJF had pulled out the diamond ring thing out of his trunks. He had it on his finger. So after the second crossroads, Cody doesn't want to pin him. He wants to continue the punishment. Picks him up to hit him with a third, and that's when MJF knees Cody right in the head and then swings a great punch and nails him right with the ring, right to the top of the head. Cody just falls flat, unconscious. MJF falls right on top of him. Referee counts, 1, 2, 3, and MJF picks up the win. So not necessarily surprised that MJF won, because I think with him winning, you can now go so much more beyond this, and I said that in my predictions. I believe I predicted Cody, but I said I wanted to be wrong. I'm like, MJF winning allows them to go further. They can go 6 more months, if MJF wins here. Where if Cody wins, I don't know what they would do, especially if it's a definitive win. If he would have hit him with that third crossroads and pinned him, where do you go now? So MJF winning was probably a good thing. I just thought it would take a lot more from Wardlow, or take something drastic like an Arn Anderson heel turn to get the job done. And he did it kind of on his own. I mean, yeah, he had the diamond ring, but he didn't even low blow. I mean, if I was booking that match, I might have him low blow his way out of that third crossroads and then hit him with the punch. But he had a pretty sick little counter, just brought the knee up and caught Cody right in the head and then punched him. It was a good sequence and a good finish there. And MJF, in probably definitely in his biggest pay-per-view match and the biggest match of his life, did a good job. Match was good. And MJF in general, we all love the level of heel that he is. And I don't even think the guy gets enough credit for that, because like I said earlier, in this day and age of, cancel culture and, how sensitive everybody is to everything. And given the age that MJF is, he's very young, not very experienced really in life yet. For him to be able to be the type of heel that he is and know exactly how far the line is. I mean, he's walking through a minefield and he's surviving. He puts his toe up to the line every time, but knows just not when to cross it. And that takes an incredible amount of like intelligence and creativity and knowing your limits and knowing, just how far you can take things to where fans are still going to appreciate you being a good heel before they start saying, okay, you know what? I know you're just playing your character, but that was a little uncalled for, shit like that. He might poke fun at a kid who's deaf, but maybe not a kid who's terminally ill. You know what I mean? He knows just what to do. And for somebody that age, that's got to be really hard to control. If you've been around for, 50 years and you know how people are and shit, that's one thing. But for this guy to be able to be that level of heel and not get stark, raving, crazy, mad people that want to kill you for everything you say because you're so offensive is pretty impressive that he's able to pull that off. So MJF, he's a star of the future, and Cody put over his boy. So excellent match there, great story, and what I like the most about it, like I said, it can continue now, and that's good. And after the match too, they showed Cody kind of dejected there, kind of wondering like what the hell was that about, what happened. So we'll see what they do next between those two guys. Going back to the chat, just peeking over here, making sure y'all are behaving, making sure you didn't spill anything. I just had these floors waxed, so please don't spill any beer in there, in that chat room, and save me some snacks. Next up, we've got a really fun one. The best way to describe this match is FUN, fun. Orange Cassidy taking on Pac. Orange Cassidy comes out, huge pop, and they mentioned this last week on Dynamite when this match was announced. I think Chuck Taylor was the one that said, hey, wait until you see how good he can be when he actually tries. So Orange Cassidy comes down to the ring, wait, whatever, from wherever. I love that entrance there. And he's ready to rock with Pac. Now, Pac, he plays along at first, because Orange Cassidy's got to do the shit. He's got the hands in his pockets. He's got the glasses on. He's doing the little lame kicks on Pac, and he's kind of doing it back a little bit. And then finally he snaps and pushes Orange Cassidy down. So I kind of like that they started out like an Orange Cassidy match because I knew it was going to pick up. I'm like, this is a chance. I mentioned this in my big-ass rant on Thursday when I was doing my predictions. I mentioned that. I'm like, they're going to show you that Orange Cassidy is not some moron who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's not... He's a trained wrestler who's extremely athletic, and hate to tell you, probably 100 times more athletic than anybody out there saying he shouldn't be in the ring. And he's good. It's not like he's superhuman, or just some kid who's just diving through shit. He's good and he's trained. What he's doing with his hands in his pockets and all that stuff is just his gimmick, and it's a silly gimmick. And like I said on Thursday, if he's winning world titles, if he goes into the next pay-per-view, faces Jon Moxley and beats him clean with his hands in his pockets, then I will be on the anti-Orange Cassidy bandwagon. But that's not going to happen. He's going to remain on, if he's going to be a joke, he'll remain a joke on the card. If he's going to be a serious wrestler, he can have more serious matches. And what I love the most about this match is they did such an excellent job of balancing all that. You had the silliness of the Orange Cassidy and his dumb little sloth-like movements. But then when things picked up and things got serious, they were able to do that too. And they balanced brutality and they balanced entertainment. And what happened at the end, the way you classified this match, was entertaining. It was entertaining from top to bottom. So after Pac basically has enough of Orange Cassidy's shit, he just starts beating the shit out of him. Now, Orange Cassidy does get a little bit of offense in, takes Pac down a couple of times, does surprise him, even performs a couple of his moves with his hands in his pockets. But eventually, Pac gains control, just starts beating the crap out of Orange Cassidy, and what I predicted he would do was just completely murder him and probably refuse to pin him. And that's exactly what happened. Had him down more than once, lifted his head up. And that was kind of a mistake because that allowed Orange Cassidy to kind of recover. He did two hilarious... I love it when he just rolls out of the way, just very slow. So Pac had him down. I think he was going for the Black Arrow from the top rope, and he just rolls slowly right out of the ring. And so Pac is like, fuck, gets down, goes and pulls him up and throws him back in the ring to go do it again, and then he rolls out on the other side of the ring. So it's like shit like that, that's not making a mockery of wrestling. That's fucking funny. So we had all sorts of interference here too, because the Best Friends are out there backing up Orange Cassidy, but we also had an appearance by the Lucha Brothers, who showed up to fight off the Best Friends as well. So you had all that going on the outside of the ring. Once the match got going and Orange Cassidy rolled out of the way of those Black Arrows, he was able to kind of snap into wrestler mode there, and now the glasses are off and the hands are out of the pockets, and he's taking shit seriously and starts having a really good match with Pac. I mean, he showed what he can do in there, and that's what I said that they were going to do tonight. So they would show the naysayers out there that, look, yeah, his gimmick is silly, but when he wants to wrestle, he can wrestle. He's not a talentless bum that's bringing down the business that doesn't deserve to be there. He's every bit as qualified and trained in the ring as anybody else on that fucking roster. And they needed to prove that tonight by putting him in there with somebody like Pac, and they did. And eventually, you knew he wasn't going to beat Pac. Pac just lost that Iron Man match to Kenny Omega. He needs to get back in his winning ways here. There wasn't anybody, I think, who thought Orange Cassidy would even win this match. And in the end, when the Lucha Brothers fight off the Best Friends, leaving Cassidy in the ring all alone with Pac, he's able to lock in the Brutalizer, and he taps. Cassidy taps quickly. So it was entertaining from top to bottom. That match was excellent. I enjoyed it. It actually maybe even exceeded a little bit my expectations of it. I thought it might be, like I said, I thought it was a good balance of silly and brutal, but I thought the scales might tip a little bit more in the silliness. I thought it might have been more of a 50-50 split, where it really wasn't. It was a nice flowing match. Give us the fun stuff, give us the serious stuff, and it all blended together very nicely, and whoever the agent was responsible for booking that, well done. We've got main event up next, Jon Moxley challenging Chris Jericho for the AEW World Title. Really excellent promo packages, hyping these matches up all throughout the the pre-show and all of that. I loved I put a video up on it Twitter today of it where they were doing the hype package for these two, and they were showing Moxley training with Randy Couture and some MMA guys, and Jericho's like, all those guys he's training with, I could kick all their asses. I probably have in just some Vegas bar fight that I don't remember. As a matter of fact, I think I knocked out Randy Couture in Vegas at the Palms. Google it and look it up. Knocked him right on his ass with his big, stupid, giant head or something like that. Fucking hysterical. Jericho is a legend, man. Absolute legend. And we were wondering if this was going to be it for him. I struggled in my predictions. I predicted him to lose yesterday, or on Thursday, but then I kind of rethought it and I was like, well, no, maybe he's going to win. I don't know if, you got to remember, Moxley's a dual champion, right? Isn't he U.S. champion in New Japan? Unless he's dropped that thing and I missed it somewhere. So I wasn't sure if that was all going to tie in very well together and if maybe it was quite Moxley's time yet, but we did hear months back that Jericho said that, he's pretty much booked with AEW up till February, the end of February. We know he's got a Fozzy tour. So there was a lot of things pointing to him losing the title. I was like, well, they might just want to keep rolling with it for a little while longer. But at the same time, Moxley was a big get for them. He was a major star, former champion in WWE. And he's going to be, and he's a guy that the fans are really into. He's super over, and he's a big piece of the puzzle there to help AEW get launched. They need some big names, and him and Jericho are really two of the big ones there. So Jericho kind of passing things off to him and say, okay, you're the man now, while I go Fozzy it up. I think it was a good time to do it, good time to pull the trigger, and I'm happy they did it. But anyway, let's backtrack. Jericho has a special entrance of his own, just like Cody did. They've got like a choir out there, and they sing the first verse of Judas, which was awesome. And then the music hit, and Jericho comes down to the ring. Now, like I said, we've all been talking about it too. You got a heel champion, but the fans are chanting and singing his theme song along with him. And I had mentioned that if he does drop the belt to Moxley, maybe when he comes back or down the line, you can do a heel turn with Jericho. All of a sudden, the Inner Circle doesn't trust him anymore. They don't have faith in him as a leader anymore after losing to Moxley, and they wind up turning on him. And then he can be a babyface, and then the fans can sing a song and everybody's happy. But Jericho's entrance here was awesome. Really cool. He's rocking the stitches from Wednesday. He took that headbutt, busted open hard way by Moxley during the weigh-in on Wednesday. So those are still fresh. So you knew those were coming open at some point. They start brawling immediately. The match spills to the outside right off the bat. Jericho is making it clear that he's trying to get intentionally disqualified. He wants nothing to do with Moxley. So they're over the barricade. They're into the audience. They're up the fucking stairs. And Aubrey Edwards is doing her damnedest not to disqualify Jericho no matter what he's trying to do. So I kind of like that. Really cool spot when they get back down to ringside. I think they're back in the ringside area at this point, and Moxley goes up and he starts biting the stitches off of Jericho's face. Now, it didn't open him up, which sucked. I would have loved to see for Moxley to come away and Jericho's head just busted open somehow, probably very reminiscent of Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch. But Moxley biting the stitches was a great spot. The match, Jericho's 50. You got to remember, he's almost 50. And he's kind of limited in what he can do these days in the ring, but this was a really fun brawl and a really good one, and a lot of intensity from both guys. This thing has been built up for a while, and you felt it from both of them. I felt it from Jericho, and I felt it from Moxley. He looked like he was going all in on this. Moxley was busted open as well, all over his face, and just very brutal, very hard-hitting match. And then the end spot was great. Moxley takes off the eye patch to reveal that he was never blind at all. The whole thing was a hoax. It's a miracle, as Bobby Heenan would say. Who did Bobby Heenan say that about? I forgot. Oh, somebody was in a wheelchair and then they got up and he's like, it's a miracle. I can't remember what the hell that was about, but it kind of reminded me of that. It's a miracle. So Moxley pulls off the eye patch, which I guess just basically stuns Jericho. He's almost like in disbelief. Doesn't even have time to really react, and he just eats a paradigm shift just like that. Moxley gets on top of him. 1, 2, 3. Amazing 3 count. Amazing moment. Crowd pops hard. Moxley with just an amazing celebration. Gets up with the title and holding it up, and the crowd's going nuts. Just an excellent moment. And he soaked it in, man. He sat there in the ring for a few minutes and soaked it in. Eventually, they must have had plenty of pay-per-view time left or feed time left, because he got on the mic and basically thanked the audience and said, you guys are the reason that AEW is where we are, and without them, they're nothing, and all that stuff. Basically just thanked people and talked about his own career a little bit. He made a big decision by leaving WWE and coming over there, and that's a great moment for him, and he's living proof that sometimes WWE, most of the time I should say, WWE just simply does not know what to do with people. They got too many people there. And you got a guy in Moxley who was injured and off all that time, and he could have come back in such a big way in WWE and been such a big player there, and they've got him taking his pants off in doctor's offices and doing the dumbest shit, and he's like, enough with this. This is stupid. I want to get the fuck out of here. You guys have just completely ruined my love and passion for this, so let me out and let me go somewhere else. And as soon as he left, he was successful right off the bat. Within days, he was United States champion in New Japan, wound up regaining that title a second time, and now here he is, the second ever AEW champion. That's pretty awesome. So the first two guys to win the belt are former WWE guys, but really when you're trying to establish a company, it's kind of what you got to do. You got to get the biggest and the most best names known possible. And I don't think that Moxley is necessarily a bad name. He's a guy that people wanted to see leave WWE. They wanted to see him go somewhere and succeed so they can be like, yeah, see WWE, you idiots. Here you sat and did nothing with this guy. Look how fucking over he is. This guy can main event and close out pay-per-views. And he did a little bit for WWE, but the booking of Jon Moxley is much more entertaining and more fun than the booking of Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose had his moments, but I think Moxley is a much stronger character, and that's all credit to him. Moxley made that character on his own. He didn't have any help from WWE. He was Moxley for a short time, and then he went, 8 years as fucking Dean Ambrose, and now he's picked things back up as Moxley, and is just as well known and just as over as he was with the WWE mega company pushing behind him. That's a tribute to him, man. He deserves to be world champion. I'm thrilled for him. So congrats to Jon Moxley. Excellent pay-per-view tonight. Excellent match, and all-around good show. Very, very, very pleased with what I saw. There's still room to improve. There's still things they can do better. We all know that. That's going to continue to be the case. You can never stop improving. Nobody ever hits their ceiling. And they will continue to, I believe. So that's it. That wraps up my notes for the pay-per-view. We'll get into some WWE stuff here in a minute, and I'll also do some questions in the chat and shit like that. And anything else you want to talk about and mention regarding Revolution tonight. But I can't say enough good things about it, man. I'm thrilled. Thank you, Chris Ludecki. Somebody would remember that. Now I remember. Heenan said it at SummerSlam 93 about Lawler. That's right, because he came out on the crutches and then he was faking it. It's a miracle. Oh, man. I wish Heenan would have been around to make that call for Vince, because Vince did the same thing, right? Didn't he do that in like 98? He was in the wheelchair and then he popped up and he was fine. It would have been cool to have Heenan call that as well. The boss is alive. Amen. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the timing could not have been perfect for Revolution tonight, coming off of that just debacle on Thursday with WWE putting the belt on Goldberg. And we'll talk a lot about that as well. I mean, and there are people, most people, and you guys know me, I never even rant or rave, but I was up here, I couldn't even speak right. I was just mumbling and stuttering through the whole damn thing because I was so flabbergasted as to why they did that and how dumb I thought it was to just end that gimmick and go in this direction that you're going. Like, what the hell are you thinking? So I had trouble kind of getting my thoughts out the other day. So we'll try to elaborate a little bit more on that. But based on what we saw on Thursday, AEW was in prime position to capitalize on that. Man, the fans are really anti-WWE right now. So let's give them a great pay-per-view and show them how it's done. However, the rating for last night's SmackDown is in, and it's up a lot. Now, a lot of people are going to automatically say, well, Cena, he's coming back, and people are going to watch. Yeah, but that's not the point. Like, people were mad enough after Super Showdown where you had hundreds of thousands of people online saying they're done watching, but the ratings go up. So somebody's lying. But my point is, I don't think anybody will ever really, truly stop watching, even though the ratings are down, and damn, this product is turning a ton of fans off. And I hope they do. I want to see, trust me, nobody more than me wants to see a steep decline, like an overnight decline in WWE. I wanted SmackDown to have the worst rating of all time last night, right after that pay-per-view, because to me, that would send the message to them, where them getting a better rating, all that tells me is Vince is going to say, well, that means trolling the fans equals ratings. And I'm sure that's going to end real well for us if they think that. But all in all, it helps AEW in terms of just the disgruntled audience that's just fed up with WWE's bullshit. Give them a badass pay-per-view tonight. You might make some fans for life that will cause AEW's ratings to go up on TNT, you know what I mean? Because right now they're a much more enjoyable product to watch. It just doesn't feel like the same stupid shit, the same crazy overproduced nonsense that we see every day from WWE. It's different, breath of fresh air, and I like it. So we got to talk about last night's SmackDown. So this was the big fallout, and I had to work, so I was asking you guys for updates, and the big rumor was that, you know, you're going to have Roman and Goldberg and Cena and Bray Wyatt all wrapped into matches together, and it could either be Cena Goldberg or Cena Fiend or Roman Fiend and Roman Goldberg. We didn't really know, but once Goldberg won the title, that kind of set the stage for us. We're like, oh shit, it really is going to be that Goldberg thing or Roman thing. And I was the one that shot that down immediately. I was like, I don't know. Like, I even said to fans, like, I understand that line of thinking for sure, because that's what WWE kind of does. But I'm like, I don't know if they're going to care that much to switch the title around and sacrifice Bray Wyatt simply to get Roman cheered. Because as good as that sounds in theory, WWE has never been the type of company to me that's given a shit if the fans boo Roman Reigns. When have they ever cared? They're out there putting that title on him no matter how many people are screaming their balls off for him. What they, just like John Cena, all they want is the reaction. As long as you are reacting to him, that's a positive thing in their eyes. Now, I'm sure there are instances where they would prefer Roman to get cheered because they do edit out boos and shit, but they haven't really taken any drastic steps really to get him cheered. Sometimes they do here and there, you know, having The Rock come out at the Royal Rumble and things like that. But overall, when the fans boo him, WWE knows it, you know, and they don't do it. They don't change up who Roman is to try to get the fans to like him a little bit more. They just keep pushing their same shit. They've got an agenda. They know what they want to do, and they're going to get it done. And they don't really give a shit what the fans say or if they kick and scream along the way. So even though I understood that theory that, oh, Roman beating Goldberg might be a better pill to swallow than Roman beating The Fiend, I still didn't think it would happen. Plus, I didn't think The Fiend would lose yet. I'm like, don't worry if Roman goes in to face Bray Wyatt. I was expecting Bray Wyatt to defeat and retain over Goldberg and then defend against Roman Reigns and probably beat him. I'm like, this has got to be Drew's moment. Let's him have the main event. The Fiend can retain over Roman Reigns or whoever he faces and then drop the title at the main event of a pay-per-view, being the focal point of that show. I didn't mean this one. I didn't mean the one, you know, on Thursday. I mean, like, after WrestleMania. Have him drop it down the line to Roman Reigns. I have no problem with Roman being the champion. He should be the fucking champion. Forfeited the title. Hasn't been anywhere near it since. It's more than time. He's definitely paid his dues, and he's done his thing, and he's won matches and shit like that. Yeah, he's wrestling Baron Corbin. Who cares? When Hogan got the title shot against Savage in 89, all he did was wrestle the big boss man for 6 months. Why did he get the shot? Just because him and Savage had an argument? You know, so a lot of people were upset the way the whole thing went down, but I'm just so disappointed about the situation in general. I'm numb to everything else. I don't even give a shit anymore. So what we got last night was Goldberg coming out with his title, his newly won title for his victory celebration, and he's interrupted by Roman Reigns, who basically comes out and just challenges him for the title at WrestleMania. And they even went as far as to make that official and announce it and show the graphic and everything. So that match is now set. Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. Now, you have some people, I saw online, a lot of people mentioning this, and they're right, saying, well, wow, that's weird that Roman came out and just got the title shot. He didn't even have to win the Elimination Chamber or anything. And to me, I can let that one slide. Of all the dumb things WWE's been doing lately, that's like one of the least dumb. You know, Roman Reigns, first of all, when you're a 4-time former champion and you've been a guy that WWE is trying to make one of their poster children, you don't need a reason to get a title shot. I just mentioned Randy Savage in 89. Or I'm sorry, Hulk Hogan in 89. He just got the shot because he beat the big boss man and Akeem for a couple of months, and he had an argument with Randy Savage. In 1990, the Ultimate Warrior lost the Royal Rumble, but he still got the title shot against Hogan just because they clotheslined each other in the match. So there's been plenty of occasions where sometimes you're like, a title shot just seems to fall out of the sky. This is a situation where it didn't fall out of the sky. Roman Reigns is a former champion, 4-time champion, and he had to forfeit the title due to a bout with leukemia. He's got the story and everything. And finally, he's worked his way back up to where he can get another shot at the title. Now, if you wanted to have him have a number one contenders match, fair enough. I can accept that. I'll meet you halfway on that. Maybe they should have done something where on SmackDown, he had a match against maybe Corbin again or whoever the fuck, and the winner of that is the number one contender. One thing I didn't really need to see was the Elimination Chamber. I saw that big complaint too. He should be in the chamber. I'm like, well, wait a second. What is our big complaint with the women's match right now? Shayna Baszler is in it. Why? We know she's going to win it. So if Roman does the same match, you're basically doing the match for no reason. If Roman is in that chamber, he's going to win that chamber. So if it's up to me, cut out the fucking middleman and don't do a match that's not necessary. And it looks like they're not. They're doing that tag team elimination shit instead, which is better because you don't want two equally predictable elimination chamber matches with Shayna and Roman Reigns winning. So I'm fine with him not being in the chamber and winning it that way, but maybe I'll agree. I think I was talking to JD from New York about this on Twitter. I do understand that maybe he should have done something, but this is not a battle I'm fighting. To me, of all the dumb decisions WWE's made in the last 72 hours, this is like the least dumb of all of them, because at least Roman is a star who should really get a title shot whenever he fucking wants. And when we're speaking of title shots falling out of the fucking sky, I find it amusing that we're talking about Roman Reigns and not Goldberg. He had 2 matches last year, 1-1, lost to The Undertaker, beat Dolph Ziggler. Why did he get a title shot? Because he's a big star, just like Roman. So I kind of found that outrage a little bit silly, because I'm like, oh man, to me, WWE's pissed me off a lot more ways this week than this way, and kind of not a battle I think is necessary to fight. Roman getting the title shot is not surprising. Now we're into a Roman Reigns and Goldberg match instead of a Roman Reigns and The Fiend match, and I think Goldberg fucking sucks. I'm sorry. That match with Bray Wyatt was so frustrating because he hits this fucker with 4 spears and the worst jackhammer I've ever seen in my life, and he pins him 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins had Bray Wyatt's head on a mat and he smashed it with a chair. And he hit it with 11 curb stomps and he kicked out of everything. Goldberg just rolls him over on his back, because that's what his jackhammer looked like. Like he just rolled him over into a small package and pinned him. And the fans say, oh, don't worry, The Fiend is not ruined. The fuck he ain't. After that, like, when you compare the Hell in the Cell match to the Goldberg match, explain that to me. You know, how does Bray Wyatt survive the Hell in the Cell with Seth Rollins and take a chair to the face and kick out at 1, and he takes the worst looking spear that my 90-year-old grandmother could have thrown better and gets pinned, and he ain't ruined? I'm normally not that fan that's saying, oh my God, this guy's ruined and buried, but I'm that fan today because I still feel as strongly about this now as I did on Thursday. They have raped that Fiend character, and Bray Wyatt himself is going to be fine. You got to understand my anger too. I don't take it to the level where some people do. I saw a lot of this on social media as well. Bray Wyatt should quit the WWE. He should leave the WWE. They don't know how to book his character. They don't know how to handle anything and do anything right. And, you know, he's probably so disgruntled there, and it sucks, and they're fucking him up, and they're screwing him over, and they're shitting on him, and he should just get the fuck out of there. There is a line there. You still have to understand, like, Bray Wyatt, I believe that the Fiend character, a lot of damage was done to it, but he's still getting a WrestleMania match with John Cena, which we'll talk about in a minute. You know, Bray Wyatt's life isn't exactly the worst. Bray Wyatt is not EC3. He's still heavily featured. He's getting a match at WrestleMania with John Cena. That is no small match to have, and that equals a lot of moolah for him. So he's doing fine. It's just the treatment of his character that really fucking sucks. And if I'm Bray Wyatt, I'm probably not leaving WWE because that's where my bread is buttered. But the way they have handled the Fiend character, infuriating. 100% infuriating. So you now have Roman and Goldberg. That match is set. And what kind of match you guys are thinking that's going to be? I just said Goldberg sucks. How he managed to beat the Fiend with that shitty jackhammer is beyond me. Do you think his match with Roman is going to be any better? He just can't wrestle. Even in his glory days, in that 1 year from September of 97 to December of 98, that 14-month span there he had, that was really the meat of his career, his entire career, really. That was the streak. He wasn't even good then. So, you know, nowadays, he's not going to be Eddie Guerrero or Bret Hart in there, I understand. Goldberg has his style, you know, to strike hard and strike first and put your guy down in as little time as possible, but even though he looks in amazing shape for somebody who's 53, he wrestles like somebody who's 53 too. And he can't be he's got explosiveness to it, but it's not the Goldberg of old. The only thing about the Goldberg of old that is really there is his look. He still looks amazing. Can't say enough good things about how good Goldberg looks. My God, we should all aspire to look like that when we're 53. Jesus. But as far as like what he can do in the ring, it's shit, man. So what is he going to have with Roman? The worst fucking match of all time. And now we've got Roman getting a title shot, and I was adamant about not putting 2 long-haired bearded guys over in the same night when I thought Roman was going to face The Fiend. I'm like, no, Drew's moment. Roman winning the title and doing the fireworks on the undercard seems weird to me. So I didn't see him beating The Fiend. But now that he's facing Goldberg, I definitely see him beating Goldberg. They better not put Goldberg over Roman, goddammit. So I think Roman's going to beat him at WrestleMania, which means you're now going to have 2 major title changes. And both of your champions are going to look an awful lot alike. And hell, your last 3 champions all look fucking identical. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre. So it's just going to look weird. So I almost envisioned maybe at WrestleMania 36 some sort of a weird Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit moment after the main event, assuming Drew McIntyre beats Brock Lesnar and you get Roman and Drew kind of a face-off there, and they're both champions. And I don't know what that means, if they hug or shake hands or fist bump or maybe pitch some sort of a unification match. I don't think that'll happen. But I almost wonder if that's going to happen. And now that match with Goldberg is made against Roman Reigns, it makes you wonder if Drew is going to lose to Brock. I was certain Drew was going to be launched, and now I'm questioning that because we have heard about WWE changing up some of their WrestleMania plans. It wasn't supposed to be this. Apparently they pivoted this week and decided to go in this direction for some unknown fucking reason. To load up this WrestleMania with as many names as possible. Maybe this is all done in part to impress ESPN and whoever else they're in talks with to move their pay-per-views to their networks. They might want to load up WrestleMania with a lot of these names. This might be part of it. Brock Lesnar and Goldberg are both your world champions right now. Somebody pointed out that at the end of 2003, Survivor Series, that's who was champions. Those are your 2 champions in WWE. 17 years ago. Same 2 guys. Unbelievable. I thought Goldberg, after his loss to Brock and his Hall of Fame shit and his send-off speech, I thought it was possible we'd see him back again. But more of like for an attraction match, like with Dolph Ziggler or like with The Undertaker. I had no idea that they would bring him back and actually put the fucking title on him again. And now this guy is public enemy number 1. He's the biggest heel in the business now. And so WWE thinks that, okay, good, Roman will get cheered, but not necessarily. Roman is going to get cheered, and they're going to want him to win over Goldberg for sure. But they were chanting, "You both suck" last night on SmackDown. So I don't know if it's really going to even work the way WWE thinks it's going to work. And now I'm in a situation where I need Roman to beat Goldberg even more than I need Drew to beat Brock. Goldberg, I think is just not a good guy to have as champion, to be honest. I just don't think it's I don't think it's good long term, so that's why he better drop the belt to Roman. So now where does that leave Drew? Where does that leave Brock? What's going to happen there? And could WWE's plans for Drew now change? And as far as the former champion goes, he's doing the same thing Kofi Kingston did. Doesn't seem to give a shit that he dropped the belt. And again, you get a lot of those, well, that character doesn't need the title. I get that there are characters that are like that don't necessarily need the title, but WWE put the title on him. So it's there now. So he should give somewhat of a shit about it. And he should not want to be done with Bill Goldberg. His character should say, "What the fuck just happened to me, Goldberg? There must be something in that Saudi Arabia water. I don't know what the fuck, but you somehow beat me. I'm coming for you. You ain't getting off that easy," and do a rematch or something. But you can't because the WrestleMania plans are already set in stone. And now it's making like your booking doesn't make sense because John Cena made his return in the main event segment last night on SmackDown, goes on to say that, he's moving on with his life and his career a little bit, and WrestleMania should go on without him, and it should be about the future generation, and very heartfelt promo. He was in Boston. Crowd seemed happy to see him back. I'm always happy to see Cena back. I've always been a defender of his. So him being involved this year and having a WrestleMania match, I was all for it. Especially if it was against Bray Wyatt, because that's interesting. There's a tie in there all the way back to WrestleMania 30. When John Cena beat him, and a lot of people were like, "Holy shit, you ruined fucking Bray Wyatt." Well, it doesn't matter. Even if John Cena beats him now, I don't give a shit. I don't even want to hear anybody say, "Oh my God, the Fiend absolutely has to beat John Cena." At this point, I don't care. He already lost to Goldberg. Who cares? But I will say this. I think he will beat Cena. Cena should put him over. I just wish Bray Wyatt was champion. I would have much rather wanted to see that. I don't even mind necessarily these 2 matches. I mind where the championship is. If they want to do Goldberg and Roman, wrestling's past versus wrestling's future, Battle of the Spear, no title on the line, great. I'd be all for that match at WrestleMania. And then have the title match be Bray Wyatt defending against John Cena, and Bray Wyatt can beat him. Because John Cena, you got to remember, he's going to be going for that record-breaking title at some point, and he will win that. But if he was going to face Bray Wyatt here, I'd put Bray over Cena for sure. And again, let Drew have his moment and really right that WrestleMania 30 wrong, which at the time I think I defended kind of in the same sense. I'm like, look, I understand this kind of sucks, but Bray Wyatt is still a top spot on the card. Like I said, he had a WrestleMania match with John Cena. That's a big deal. That's a big spot to be in. And he would go on to defeat John Cena after that as the program continued. A couple of years later, he would have a small taste with WWE Championship and defend it at WrestleMania and all of that. And he's always been a big spot on the card, and he's probably making solid money. But in terms of like all the build they did with the character and then that big letdown having Cena beat him, I get it totally that a little bit of that was there, but I still think what happened on Thursday was 10 times worse. So what will be interesting, the one interesting thing about all of this at WrestleMania is it gives them a chance to have Bray Wyatt get that monkey off his back. And it was interesting, too, after John Cena cut his promo, he's leaving, music is playing, he's up on the ramp, and then the lights go out, and when they come back on, Bray Wyatt is standing behind John Cena on the stage, and that's how they set the match up, just like that. He stood there, and he pointed, the Fiend, pointed to the WrestleMania sign, and Cena just kind of nodded his head and gave him a little tip of the cap and said, yeah, and that was it, and the match is on, and the match is official now. So I thought it was a really good segment. I like the visual of Bray Wyatt behind John Cena's back. It's just based on what happened 2 days before, it just killed it for me. You know, I just wish Bray Wyatt would still be the champion. I would much rather see that. You know, and I mentioned the possibility of that not making sense either, because I talked about that in recent episodes. I'm like, well, if Bray Wyatt goes on to beat Goldberg at Super Showdown, is Goldberg going to turn right around again and have a WrestleMania match against Roman Reigns and lose to him? You know, 2 big shows, 2 big losses. It'd be a good way to put over, you know, current talent on your way out if this is going to be your retirement send-off or something. But it's very un-Goldberg-like, you know, as in terms of the icon that WWE sees him to be, even though I don't agree with it. So that was going to be hard to imagine as well, having him drop 2 matches like that. So I had my suspicions, but you know, overall, I'm no less happy about this than I was on Thursday. So yeah, or less mad about this, I should say, not less happy. Oh, I'm missing super chats. Let me go catch them. Oh no, I didn't. I didn't miss one. Good. Hey Rajiv, can you do us all a big favor and like put one more annoying comment in there, because you certainly haven't done enough. Yeah, if you're going to make a comment in the chat, by all means, put 20 of them. I'm blocking you for that. You are the weakest link. Z-Man says, Drew going to get wrecked by Brock. You know, you might be right, because it feels like there was a report that came out saying, I remember, I don't know who posted it, but it was like, spoiler, winner of the WrestleMania main event revealed. I'm like, bullshit. Even if word got leaked, even if somebody's like, hey, I heard Vince McMahon say that Drew's going to beat Brock, so I'm going to leak that to the dirt sheets, and then they report it as some big spoiler, that doesn't mean shit. We got so long to go until WrestleMania gets here. Anything can be changed. So I didn't believe that for a second. I know that Drew is most likely what they were going to do. At least that's what I thought. But based on this whole new direction they took in the last couple of days and kind of turning WrestleMania upside down, I don't know now. So we've got Bray Wyatt, John Cena, Goldberg, Roman, Brock, Drew, Edge, and Randy Orton. Those are going to be the 4 big ones. Probably going to get Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch. We're going to get Charlotte and Rhea Ripley. That's 7 matches, I think. Right? Probably get that Andre Battle Royal. Maybe something else. I don't know. That's pretty much all the big stars are accounted for. Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens will probably go one-on-one. Braun Strowman, assuming he's still Intercontinental Champion by then, will probably do something as well. And yeah, so I don't know. Like, the WrestleMania card felt better the other way. The WrestleMania card felt better with Bray Wyatt as champion. I just have no interest in seeing Goldberg in this level of a match at this stage in his life. Oh, and AJ Styles and The Undertaker. So that's another one. So that's like 8 matches. And on paper, that one looks good. But look at the guys you have on this fucking show. I'm just waiting for them to add a Triple H match now. Goldberg and The Undertaker and Edge. And some of these old dudes all having matches. I don't know. Edge, I'm actually happy to see back. Edge, I think, has got a couple of years in him once he gets cooking and going here. So that's going to be fun. And that's probably going to be the best story to tell at WrestleMania anyway. And possibly the best match, too, because right now, the ones on the top of the card aren't looking that great. I did too, Elijah Speller. I've heard about Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. I like that. You know, Daniel Bryan and Sheamus and John Cena and Bray Wyatt. I mean, there's a lot of bad feelings there with the audience. That Daniel Bryan and Sheamus match was in my early days of YouTube, and I remember people shitting their pants over that. And I was one of the ones who was like, I didn't give a shit. It didn't bother me at all. But fans were just outraged at the absurdity of that. And oh my God, 8 seconds and whatever. So that would be another good match to do that return and have Daniel Bryan exercise that demon, just like Bray Wyatt might do to John Cena at WrestleMania, or hopefully he does to John Cena. Can you imagine if John Cena beats him now? I mean, doesn't that match become awfully predictable the way it is now with Bray Wyatt losing the title in the stupidest fucking way possible? If he goes into WrestleMania and gets beat by John Cena, he might as well just go back to being old Bray Wyatt. The Fiend is just no more, no reason for Funhouse, none of that. So it feels like to me that if Bray, I already feel like he's dead, but if he has any chance of survival here, he's got to beat John Cena. If this character has any chance of recovering from what happened to him, he's got to beat Cena. But I don't think there's a way to recover. It just makes no sense. When you look at Hell, if you play Hell in the Cell, all the punishment he took there, and Goldberg spears and jackhammers, and you tell me why one guy got pinned and one didn't. Yeah, still mad. Never going to get over it, y'all. A year from now, I'm going to be bitching about this. You wait. All right, pretty solid audience in here. Last 3 or 4 streams, numbers have been back up to my normal numbers. So if you're here and you're new and you're here for the first time, make sure you smash that subscribe. Give me a like as well. I'm not even up to 100 likes. I'm like some jabroni here. So hook me up with a bunch of likes. I'll appreciate it. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, let's hang out and chat a little bit longer here. I've been going about an hour and a half, I guess. On a prime time, late night edition of the Winged Eagle podcast. It's so weird, too. It feels like a Sunday. I purposely took tonight off from work because I'm always working on Saturdays so I could watch Revolution. But after I'm watching a pay-per-view, it feels like it's Sunday, but it isn't. It's a Saturday night. So we'll stay up here and boogie a little bit longer and answer any questions we might have and talk. Oh, thank you, Ryan Rhoda, for mentioning that. I wanted to bring that up as well. I want to watch that. I'm going to watch it tonight. The R-Truth WWE Network doc, I think, was released a couple of days ago. I think it was right after, or it was last night. It was last night it was released, right after SmackDown. So I want to take a look at that because I got people tagging me and shit on Twitter saying, oh, you need to watch that. So I will. I'm really a big R-Truth fan. A lot of people said it was a really cool special to watch, and I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, I'm going to check out the R-Truth stuff tonight while I'm eating my slow cooker ribs. Cannot wait. Hello, 90s guy from Australia. Good to see you in here, man. Oh, and thank you again, Ryan, for that. Yeah, that was another thing I forgot to mention here. I retweeted both of them. Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins both tweeted out after the Super Showdown match. Seth Rollins says, if only I had pulled out the jackhammer. How great of a tweet is that? Babyface Seth Rollins is back, ladies and gentlemen. And then Bray Wyatt, he responds to a completely unrelated tweet, had nothing to do with him, is some fan saying, I think talking about the Miz and Morrison losing last night on SmackDown. And whoever the Twitter person was said, man, WWE, right after these guys win the tag team titles, they're losing in a non-title match. Is WWE just trying to destroy its characters? And Bray Wyatt responds back with yes. Wasn't even a tweet pertained to him. He wasn't tagged in it. Had nothing to do with him at all. He just went out of his way to respond to that random tweet, and that was funny. So I don't know if part of it is just all the work and Bray Wyatt doesn't give a shit that he has to lose these matches and he doesn't care at all and he's just playing into it to, you know, keep the fans happy with him or what, or if really he is disgruntled and he is frustrated and he knows how stupid the company he works for is. You know, and I've been there. I've been in that position before of just working somewhere where you're like, this just sucks, but the money's good. I got to stay there. So I don't know. It's a shame though. Ungovernable. Yeah, a lot of people say that. I mentioned that earlier. I touched on that. A lot of people say Fiend doesn't need the title. I understand that, but he was given the title. You can't change that. They put the title on him. You know, I thought they should have waited a long time to do that. Like him still not be champion yet. Like eventually, you know, guys like Undertaker too, you know, he eventually had a crack at the title. I do believe that there are certain characters that don't necessarily need it to stay relevant with the audience. That I completely understand. But as a professional wrestler, no matter how crazy your gimmick is, What the fuck are you doing in the ring if you don't care about being the champion? You know, so I think there has to be a little bit of that, and they wouldn't have been able to avoid keeping the belt off of him forever. Kind of like with The Undertaker. Eventually, they were like, okay, we got to go back to him. How many times can we have him work with giant monsters at WrestleMania before we put him with the champion? You know, so eventually they would have had to get there. So I didn't want to see The Fiend champion right away. I wanted to see him champion in the future after he's just torn through everybody. But they hot-shotted the whole damn thing and then did the debacle in Hell in the Cell and then tried to fix it at Super Showdown. Now you got this guy as champion. So I'm like, okay, fine, he's champion now. Let's build to the loss. Let's build him up to when he gets defeated for the first time and that belt is taken off of him. It is a huge deal. You got it in a silver platter here, sitting right in your lap. Just build it, do it right. It can be a big moment whenever you choose to have that moment happen. But the way they did it in Saudi Arabia, it's like, motherfucker. So a lot of fans are like, he didn't need the belt. I'm glad it's off of him, but the damage is still done. This guy got beat with the shittiest looking jackhammer. Just forget the belt even exists for right now. That match was like stupid. So I'm all for with like getting the belt off of Bray because he doesn't need it. Just get it off him the right way. Have the right person in the right situation beat him. That was not the right situation on Thursday. I don't care what anybody says. That was fucking dumb. And they just really couldn't resist, you know, just to sacrifice somebody like that. I just think there's like so many different ways you could have done it, you know, than what they did. But it's what's done now. What's done is done. Ain't getting no going back on it. Did Bray Wyatt's daddy IRS win the strap ever? No, not the world title. The only gold he held in WWE was tag with Barry Windham. He had a couple of IC title shots. Oh, and he had the tags with DiBiase. Excuse me. But he had a couple of Intercontinental title shots. He almost beat Razor Ramon one year at the Royal Rumble because I remember him like holding up the belt. I won. I think that was 94. Shawn Michaels got involved in that. But no, he was never a singles champion. But his gimmick was stupid. I hated the IRS gimmick. You know, never liked it. It actually lasted a lot more years than I thought. Like when I first saw it, I'm like, God, WWE, an accountant for real. And Rotundo's a good wrestler. Should have been micro. This guy had a big tag team, you know, in the 80s in WWE, and now they're putting the suspenders on him and all that shit. Thought it was crazy. I missed Baron Corbin's tweet on the steel cage match. Does everyone have to compete at WrestleMania? I think WWE likes to get as many people involved as possible. They do that. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, if you're working in the company and you're there, it would be pretty cool, especially if you're somebody that's probably not ever going to be world champion. You're lucky to have a job kind of thing, and they throw you in a battle royal or they have you be a part of something. It's kind of be a thrill, I would think, you know? So if I was working there in any capacity, I'd want to be out there. And I think they try their best to include a lot of people. Sometimes they can not be so good because there's so many matches involved. And then you got multiple 8-man matches and you got battle royals and ladder matches and all this shit to get everybody involved. But I think it's cool that a lot of people at least get to sniff, you know, WrestleMania. Even if you're not somebody that's got a major match on the card, at least if you can get a little taste of it, it's probably a thrill for the talent. That's why they're there, you know? Edge doesn't count as an old guy because he started young. I don't think it really matters when you start. Your age is your age. But Seth, or I'm sorry, not Seth. Edge has years left. I mean, he looked in great shape, you know. And you can be in your mid-40s and work. What is he, 46? He can give us 3 years. I believe it. It's not like he wrestled too crazy of a style. I think he'll be a lot better than Goldberg. And like I said, Randy Orton will take care of him. That'll be a good match. Those guys know each other. I'm ready. I'm ready for him to show back up. Now I feel like he can at any time. We might wait until we get on the other side of Elimination Chamber. And then he comes back to Raw. And the match is set for WrestleMania. And you do a couple of weeks of build before we get there. That'll be good. Oh, speaking of WrestleMania, before I get out of here, because I am going to be bailing out of here in just a couple of minutes. I got a couple of... Where's my phone? Oh, forget it. It's way too far down there. A couple of videos planned for WrestleMania season. One of them is going to be on Sunday night. Let me pick up my phone so I can look at the date. I already have this date set aside. It's going to be a live stream, and it's going to be... Because I'm trying to come up with like WrestleMania-related videos for WrestleMania season. And we are looking at March the 15th. That's going to be a Sunday. There's no pay-per-views or anything that day, I don't believe, planned. I'm going to come up here that night, and we're going to do a live stream, and we're going to talk about 3 specific WrestleManias, because I'm trying to come up with like WrestleMania related topics to do. I've done top 10s, I've done Q&As, I've done the big WrestleMania memories video a few years ago. I've, trying to come up with more ideas for WrestleMania. So I was thinking I might do watch-alongs or something this year, and I still might do that. But one of the videos I know for sure I'm going to do is March 15th. It's going to be a live stream, and we're going to discuss the first 3 WrestleManias after Hulk Hogan's run in the WWE. So we're talking WrestleMania 10, WrestleMania 11, and WrestleMania 12. Last night I joked on Twitter that it was almost the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania 11, the best one ever, and I haven't even started decorating yet. And then somebody was like, you should do a review. And I'm like, you know what, maybe I will. But I was also like, no, WrestleMania 11 all by itself, it's going to be tough for anybody to even want to watch that YouTube video. So I started thinking, I'm like, those were the rough days in WWE, that 94, 95, 96 era. Business was bad, business was down. Those were interesting times. So I was like, let's knock them all out. Let's review all 3 together in a fun, kind of casual live stream like this. So March 15th, we're going to do that. Stay tuned for time and specifics on that, but we'll talk and review WrestleMania 10, 11, and 12, talk about the differences between one year compared to the other, because a lot of those years are they're in the same era to me. Once we got to WrestleMania 13 and Austin was bleeding in the Bret Hart match, that was like almost like a different time period. But that 94, 95, and 96 era was interesting, and a lot of different things happened in the company around that time. And it'll be fun, I think, to take a look back and look at the differences from each year. After when the new generation was officially there, Bret Hart was launched at WrestleMania 10, no more Hogan. He was off to WCW, and you had those new generation years, which was poor fan attendance and poor business in general, and the pay-per-views, especially in 95, were not very good. So I think that'll be better instead of like podcast form, like live stream form, because we can kind of casually talk about that and talk about our memories. And I've got the WrestleMania 12 plaque right behind those video cassettes from that year of Shawn Michaels winning the title and a piece of the ring and the whole deal. So that'll be a fun night, March 15th. Keep that on your calendar. I'm also going to have another WrestleMania video up in the month of March somewhere. I've got a This Day in History coming up on April 1st, and probably something else too. So it'll be fun. And then for WrestleMania weekend, I'll keep you guys posted, as far as my plans there. I'm sure I'll be home to watch the Hall of Fame. I might skip SmackDown because I think it's going to be Hall of Fame Thursday, SmackDown Friday. I'll probably work Friday. There's no reason for me to be off to watch the go-home SmackDown. But then Saturday I'll be home for TakeOver and, of course, WrestleMania. And I'll decide whether I'm going to do live reactions or anything like that. And speaking of live reactions, for those of you asking, I mentioned this last week. This coming Monday, I'm going to go back to reacting to Raw. So we're going to try it this week. So I'll be up here as Raw starts, and we'll watch the whole show together, just like we do back in the day, or used to do back in the day. For the past, 3 months, I've been doing Raw reviews, and I'll probably go back to doing those. But for WrestleMania time, I want to try to react to a few Raws. So that's my plan for this coming Monday, because I know a lot of you missed that. Let's knock out some more Super Chats before I knock myself out of here. Zane, thank you, man, for $10, 2 different sets of $5, one with no comment. Thank you for that. And another $5 follows that with you saying, with Joe suspended from WWE, by the time he returns, do you think he would have time for a build-up towards WrestleMania? If so, against who? Good question. Probably not. And this sucks. Joe's missed a couple of WrestleManias, hasn't he? And this one is kind of his own fault there. He violated the wellness policy. Don't know what he did or what he got caught for. And it was weird too, because that was reported a couple of weeks before he got before it was announced. It was reported, and then he showed up on TV. So they're like, oh shit, guess it's not true. And then turns out that it was true. So kind of an interesting way that unfolded. And it sucks for him. He just has had bad luck, whether it be injuries or concussions or his own doing here. And I don't know what it was. I think it's his first policy violation. Never really known Joe to be a drug user or anything. It could be anything. Sometimes you can fail these wellness policies because you didn't take the test, or you didn't do it, or you refused, or you took it wrong, and that results in a violation, and they don't disclose what they get violated for. So we really have no idea. But as far as him being out for 30 days and coming back, I don't think WWE's really going to bend over backwards, to be honest with you, to put him in a WrestleMania match because he's already been injured, had a concussion, then he got injured shooting that commercial. Now he's suspended. You might not want to advertise something there. It's too much unknown, you know? So Seth Rollins is probably going to have the match with Kevin Owens, and the Viking Raiders might still be involved with AOP, and Buddy Murphy might be doing something, and then Joe can maybe get involved. Maybe there's a 6-man, Joe and War Raiders against AOP and Buddy. You know, maybe assuming Buddy and Seth maybe drop the belts prior to WrestleMania. That might be a good, you know, kind of catalyst to get that match booked officially between Seth and Owens. Maybe Owens costs Seth and Buddy the tag team titles, and then Seth's pissed, and I demand a match with you at WrestleMania or whatever, and that's how that whole thing gets set up. Could go that way. But yeah, other than that, I don't know what Joe's plans are. We're probably not going to see him at WrestleMania, but we might. I hope we do. I feel like the ship has sailed on Joe. I felt like he kind of came into the company pretty late, but I still think he had some miles in him. And then when he got there and he got to the main roster and had that match with Brock 3 years ago now almost at Great Balls of Fire, and he was put down and with one F5 and pinned, and that was it. I still to this day remember my predictions. I predicted him to win. I was like, Joe's going to do it. I think WWE should take advantage of this and put him over, and he's already a badass and fans like him. He's believable. He could choke out Brock. It would be great. And boy, was I wrong. And he's never really recovered, you know? So I agree with you. I don't think Vince sees him as a big draw either. I think if he did, he would have put him over 3 years ago. And now, I think just where he is physically in his career, he's probably not ever going to be WWE champion. Or I'm certain he's not going to be WWE champion. Ever. Which is a shame. But anyway, I am probably going to get out of here now because I'm hungry. I want to eat some food. But it's been a pretty good stream. We've been going for nearly 2 hours now. Appreciate everybody hanging out with me this evening. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I got nothing else really going on here. Nothing in my notes, and you guys aren't asking me any questions that are too crazy. Other than the real who wants to rub my bald head for good luck. You can try. It's right here. A lot of people do that. A lot of people I know at work. I want to rub your head for good luck. I'm like, okay, have at it. All right. Well, anyway, that's a wrap for me tonight. Like I said, I had a great time watching AEW Revolution. I had a great time doing this stream and review. Thank you to everybody that hung out with us live tonight. These are always fun and always a blast to do. And I will be back up here in 2 days for a live Monday Night Raw watch along. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, click that notifications bell, share this video with your friends and your mama, and I'll appreciate it. You guys take care. Have an excellent rest of your Saturday night, and I'll catch you on Monday. Be cool. Peace.